The second anniversary of the full introduction of the federal government's Fair Work Act has just passed, yet research shows the resources sector is becoming increasingly disillusioned with the IR system. AWMA says resource industry employers were also reporting a significant decline in productivity as a result of the changes. Many employers expect cost blowouts and project delays may result from difficulties in reaching new workplace agreements. Wood spoke with AWMA CEO Steve Knott for the details.
Well, we surveyed 74 employers that employ over 100,000 employees. 80% of them have said they've got increased IR transaction costs. Most of them, again almost 80%, said no productivity benefits, which was a key component of the IR laws 2 years ago. And the union has a monopoly on new agreement making, and we've seen wages in the offshore oil and gas area get up to $495,000 per annum for a barge welder, for example, with no productivity offsets. So those wage increases will, and they are now, starting to flow into other sectors of the economy, and they're causing real grief. And there's also, you would know from just reading the paper, whether it's Qantas or the coal mines in northern Queensland or indeed on the wharfs, there's a lot of people taking protected industrial action ballots, and there's a tinderbox there that's been set for somebody to light, and we're concerned that they will, that will have a series of strike action activity occur, not just in our sector but in other sectors of the economy. And people say, well, you know, the Qantas issue, for example, why is that an issue? Well, we fly people in and out of our mine sites on remote site locations on a daily basis. If you've been at Perth Airport early in the morning and you've seen the logistics there, it's a massive exercise. So not just in our own sectors, but the service providers to the sectors, including maritime movements and well off the wharfs, it's all part of the approach, and we're concerned that the unions have been emboldened by the new laws and are about to let loose with some strike action.
And how are these new laws affecting the bargaining process?
Under the pre-Fair Work laws, with over 90% of our hard rock mining industry non-unionised, the unions often never came to site. We respect the right of the union to come into site where they have members, and we were told that that would be contained to what was the previous rules, which was award respondency, where we'd have 1, 2, maybe 3 unions come in and represent employees on work sites. We have reports of 300 right of entry visits in 90 days at one site. It cost a lot of management time to move people around these massive construction projects. In addition to that, we're finding now that we have sometimes up to 24 so-called bargaining representatives sitting around the table, and they can be from competing unions with different philosophical views about how to bargain going forward. And you can just think of getting your own family together and having to bring all the brothers-in-laws and sisters-in-laws and try and negotiate a Christmas dinner, for example. The more people that you get, it's just unwieldy and complex, and we're finding that's playing out in our bargaining negotiations. Fortunately for our industry at the moment, over half of them have agreements from the old IR system and had to experience these productivity sapping type negotiation processes. But as each month goes by, more and more pop into the new system, and 75% of those people that have experienced the new system is saying it's much worse than the previous regime.
And what can be done now to counter the damage done?
Well, what can be done, a good starting point would be for the coalition and the government to just look and see what was said when the new laws were coming in. Julia Gillard said the right of entry laws would not change, and they have. So we have a multitude of people where anybody can represent anybody. You can get the BLF representing nurses now under the new laws. The confidence in the new Fair Work system has been eroded. We were told there would not be an endless tribe of trade union officials appointed to Fair Work Australia, and the reality is 9 out of the 11 appointments made under the Rudd-Gillard government are ex-trade union officials. In terms of bargaining, we were told that only a majority support type arrangement, 50% plus one, would force an employer to bargain, and employees could take strike action. We're now being told through the determinations of Fair Work Australia, a minority of employees. So you could get 12 employees on a work site of 3,000 wound up by a militant union, and they could bring the job to a halt. So we respect the rights of unions to be involved in the workplaces. We respect the rights of a majority of people to force bargaining, and also a majority of people if they want to take legal industrial action. But the laws are not playing out the way that they intended. So that would be a good starting point, to just revisit what was said and then make sure there are some changes to the Fair Work legislation to meet those commitments.
We'll take